Really, nobody should accept a life that they do not deserve. Really, nobody should accept a life that they do not deserve. Should accept a life. All right, we're good.
All right, wait. But what if they do?
What? Matrix shit again.
Uh-oh. Just caught the end of that. All right. We got 4 people watching. We should go. Let's go live
All right.
now.
Let's go. Here we go. Here we go.
That's live, pal.
All right, live. Ah, you feel that? That feels like satisfaction to a very satisfying trilogy.
Is that a good climax to the trilogy?
That was for being the adult film, that was a very, very good climax. Had all kinds of O-faces during that whole screening. How are you feeling? Because you had a couple of days to let yours settle.
Yeah. I mean, if you want me to right off the bat, if you want me to just jump right in, I'm gonna tell you, I was mixed on it.
Oh yeah, you felt a little mixed, but I just couldn't tell if it's just because it was so much like the old 96er, or what was your? Do we need? Well, I don't know. Do we throw a spoiler up since we're live? But I mean, clearly the title.
It's in the title. It's in the title. They can read the title.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil. We're gonna spoil. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna do an attempt to do some breakdowns here. But I wanted to get like your immediate walkout reactions there. But man, my immediate reaction was joy, and I just sat there through the entire post-credit, waiting for that post-credit, even though you said you wasn't, because there was a part of me that, like she said, I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
But yours was a little different. Why was yours different?
Well, I mean, I saw it. I did see it a couple days ago. Mine, the A24 people were in front of the theater where I went. They had a little desk, and you come out and fill out a little card.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope.
They had, the easel with the MAXXXINE poster board and everything like that, and some little pencils and the little sheets. What were your thoughts? Like, I think it was like 2 questions. Like, what did you think, or what didn't you? It was like, what did you like? What didn't you like?
Wow, I didn't know that's. We did not get that, even though this was technically also an early screening. But I guess Cinemark doesn't have the same pull as AMC.
I suppose.
So you filled it out?
Yeah, I did. I had to think
right.
about it for a while. Here we go. Let's lose this title card. Here we go. Sorry, folks were waiting for our faces. They couldn't wait. A couple of our viewers bailed, but we're here. Sorry, we need the truncated version of that opening.
Yeah, I got a little. All right, yeah, we're ready. Face on, face off.
But was yours sold out?
No, not at all. I mean, no, there was Minions running everywhere. I mean, everybody was all about Despicable Me early access viewing.
Oh, is it MAXXXINE versus Minions weekend?
It's MAXXXINE versus Minions.
Why is there not a hashtag for that?
I don't know, but there should have been. Clearly, Hollywood doesn't know what they're doing, and that's why we need people like Ty West to sneak into the system and make some magic. Because MAXXXINE versus Minions kind of wrote itself.
Yeah.
But no, it was a decent crowd. But I mean, you can tell it was the early access crowd. So
the black T-shirt crew.
Black T-shirt crew was in full effect.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, mine was full to the brim, but I mean, it was in a tiny theater.
Yeah, we were on the smaller theater too. Again, Minions took most of the screenings, for sure. And there was only one in there tonight. So I'm curious how it's going to be, because when I purchased the Alamo tickets, it was way more filled, and that's for Saturday night. Well, but it doesn't look like we're having any screenings for the 4th of July.
I think Alamo's closed, isn't it?
Oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah. But yeah, I think all the Alamo ones are pretty full. But I mean, that's the movie connoisseurs theater, right? That one's going to go first.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get the swag. We were talking about that. You know, you get your Puritan 2 on VHS. You get a MAXXXINE Minx headshot. And I think there was one more thing in there. It was triple swag.
Okay. Triple swag. Yeah. No, that's going to be good. I can't wait for that.
That's going to be good. But man, no, again, we'll go through scene by scene, but I just sat there at the end, like during the credits, and I'm not saying like it was like a great ending, but it was a payoff ending, and like there was I feel like they stayed true to the trilogy. They stayed true to the character as well.
Well,
you know, being MAXXXINE and Pearl being her twin flame, whatever you want to call her. That means to the end, to the bloody end, she was willing to do anything to get that stardom that she was just about to get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say it carried through the trilogy, I mean, one of the things that I think makes this trilogy really unique, and I think that's why people like it, is that each one of them is in a different horror movie style, right?
Yes.
So, you know, we came out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. By the way, I did like that one part in MAXXXINE where she's got the article and they call it the Texas Porn Star Massacre.
I did like that. I want to see that movie.
I want to see the Texas Porn Star Massacre.
We should jump on that title really quick. I don't know.
No, dude, it's copyrighted by now. Someone went straight home, right to the Library of Congress and copyrighted a screenplay. But like, we had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, the grimy 70s, I don't know, butcher shop gore. And then Pearl, which it was kind of its own thing. Like I said, it's like, what if Wizard of Oz was a horror movie?
Yeah, I would definitely say Wizard of Oz meets the Universal Monsters. It had that, you know, that same vibe for sure. Different vibes. And then we jumped to the 80s, right? Yes.
Right into the glossy Hollywood Boulevard. Ty West has got to be from LA because it just feels, it's got that feel of Hollywood Boulevard. You can smell it.
Yeah.
You can smell it. You can taste it. You can see you can imagine what characters are right off screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I loved the part where somebody was calling this movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood via Ty West, and I think that comment put ideas in my head that weren't in the movie. But anyway, it was. I loved when they were on Hollywood Boulevard and they had the karate school.
Yes. That was great. That was great. They had it all, man. The peep shows, the streetwalkers.
So what would you say this style of movie was? If the other was Chainsaw Massacre and then we had Wizard of Oz, this was, what did you feel?
I mean, and I was gonna say this, and it's one of your favorite movies, and so it's kind of like I said, I wasn't sure are you gonna agree with me or not on this. It's one of your favorite movies, and you're kind of unsure about this one. Is Nighthawks? It felt like that dirty. It felt like that dirty inside the club. The cops, that are the handsome Stallone-looking cops that could have been actors. That's how I kind of felt.
Yeah. No.
With that cop mystery going on.
I think there's a lot of Nighthawks, and there's like other movies I felt in here. I felt 10 to Midnight, which I think we talked about that last time. Very 10 to Midnight. There's a lot of, it feels like, people have been saying this is feels like a giallo, like a Italian horror, and it's got a lot of that. But what it felt like to me was, it's not necessarily the giallos that it's imitating, but the American knockoffs of giallo, like 10 to Midnight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's 2 levels deep.
Yeah,
from a giallo.
It's like 2 levels deep. It's not a giallo. It's the American smut or schlock. It's not schlock. What would you call it? I'm not sure what you would call it, but it's our imitation of a giallo that Ty West is more sort of like taking his inspiration from.
Yeah, cleaner a little bit. Yeah, I can totally see that. It didn't feel like a lot of when it was time to deliver the blood, they delivered, and there were some really, really graphic scenes, really graphic scenes that probably. The first one was and this is kind of an earlier scene when MAXXXINE is kind of walking the streets and just walked past the dojo, and they already had the warnings of the Night Stalker, which I loved all that. I loved seeing the Sue Scarboroughs and those old timey 70s and 80s newscasters talking about the Night Stalker, Night Stalker, Night Stalker. So they already kind of drilled it in your head that this was going. So she was walking the streets nervous, and it was that it was just a random Hollywood guy that all of a sudden decided he was going to follow her into an alley and jump her. Yeah. But he was dressed like Buster Keaton or something.
No, this guy was like the lead of another movie and walked into MAXXXINE's movie. In another movie, he had already slaughtered multiple women, and he thought MAXXXINE was his next victim, and he was like, no, she ended that.
Yeah.
That was like...
way graphic.
Look,
I picked a bad day to eat sausage. Let's put it that way. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the most. I can't think. And again, it has that sort of vibe of an Italian movie where it's like that hard cut. He gets his nuts fucking smashed out. That's just nuts smashed out in high heels. And you get that hard cut to the effect, to the prosthetic, and just see it all spilling out.
How wild was that that literally got? I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that hard cut.
I thought that more than anything made me jump. I think that made my whole theater jump.
There was a few of those scenes that they were not the typical jump scares, but they definitely made me jump in a way that I did not expect. And that was, we'll go over all of them, but that was by far one of them.
Yeah.
Another 80s movie that this reminded me of, same exact year, Avenging Angel. I kind of felt that vibe too.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, obviously they're streetwalkers. It's night. They're taking the streets back. So I kind of felt that too. But you were right. I mean, you're still rewarded for going through this trilogy. But again, this is why I like I said in our last show, this trilogy has to go down as the most creative trilogy of all time, because you got 3 different flavors and they linked together. There's so many wars online about films, keeping canon and staying within canon, and He had nobody messing with him. He wrote them, he edited them, and he directed them. And there was no plot holes of just like, well, why did this happen? Like, you never get a chance to be taken out of the moment because everything links together the same way that he linked X to Pearl by dropping the Pearl trailer, and then at the end of X also they kind of linked to this, and we'll get into how that was a perfect link of like the last thing in your scene, to the point where you're like, okay, I should have expected that to be how they would go. Because it was right there, right?
Yeah.
It was right there at the end of X, and it was right there at the beginning.
Well, what are you referring to?
Vaccine.
Remember, it's a spoiler discussion, so don't
her dad.
Spare no spoilers.
Yeah, it ends up her dad was the preacher that was preaching the entire time during X, and they showed him at the end that he was Maxine's dad. I mean, that was a monster payoff from like years ago that it was just like, he planted it. It was right there.
Yeah.
So it was just like
he swerved.
We should have expected it
but the thing is he swerved us because you forget that's one of the last shots in X, right? But before we got to the follow up, he threw in a whole other movie.
We're correct.
Which took place 50 years earlier.
Yeah.
So you forget that's like wrestling booking right there.
Oh man, yeah. It was booked perfectly. I mean, it was the perfect swerve. They had the cool down with Pearl, and then boom, you just nailed that, and it was just enough time to forget, but like, oh, that's right, her dad thinks that she's possessed by the devil and he's trying to find her.
Yeah.
But there's one thing, let's talk about the Night Stalker again. Like I said, they were drilling it in there, and they had a little bit of the fake out ending, like she was, she had the gun to her dad's head, and then she flashed through of like, this is how I'm going to become a star. And then you realize it didn't happen yet. And then she's back in the moment. But then they go back again, and she does become a star. But then one of the things they did was like the Night Stalker was caught, but it was somebody completely different.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah. It was somebody completely different that had a full head of hair, that he looked like the son of Sam. And the Night Stalker has been caught, but it wasn't Maxine's dad. It wasn't the preacher. Oh, and then they're like, that's why I go on. That's another one. Is just like, and then this is brain vomit, so I got to see it again. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, so
that wasn't the Night Stalker.
Was it? It wasn't Richard Ramirez.
Oh wait, it was Richard. That's the real Night Stalker in real life, right?
Yeah, that's the name of the Night Stalker in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was him.
It was him.
Yeah, so Maxine's dad was just jumping on that, like he wasn't the Night Stalker.
No, he was.
Right?
He was setting up his kills to look like it was the Night Stalker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Night Stalker did get caught, but unrelated to her dad getting caught as well.
Yeah. As I'm coming out of this, one of the things I thought when I was coming out of this movie was how big an influence Quentin Tarantino is in movie pop culture. Because I feel like this sort of like revisiting old periods in history and sort of rewriting it, I mean, that's all because of him.
Correct. Yep.
And I think this was Ty West kind of leaning into that. I had another one in mind. Somebody else did that recently. But anyway, I thought that was great. I just wish it had leaned into it a little harder. But I don't know if that would have felt like maybe Ty West was biting QT style. But I don't know. I thought we were going to see the Night Stalker. I thought we were going to get to meet the Night Stalker. You know what I mean? I thought that was going to be our climax.
That was going to be our with Charles Manson switcheroo.
Something like that. Something like, I thought we were going to get that. So in that instant, again, my expectations for this movie were sky high. And then I'm kind of mixed on it. I have to see it again. It's like you said, I think when something is really good and innovative, the first viewing's not enough. And I think as I think about it more, I realize I was like, well, that wasn't even a horror movie at all, honestly.
No.
But again, neither was Pearl. Pearl was not a horror movie either.
No.
So it's
No.
like this is it's horror adjacent, but again, it's in that vein of 10 to Midnight, Avenging Angel, whatever, Hollywood Boulevard Avengers. Copyright that. And then like it's just that feel. It's Hollywood Boulevard sleaze. I don't, it felt there was lots of things in there. There was like some Maniac in there. I felt like some Maniac. It's just that.
Maniac was another one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of like 42nd Street Grindhouse, Pussycat Theater type of feel, but glossy and done like in a. I mean, they call it out in the movie. I want to do a B movie with with an A budget or whatever,
Oh, that was a great line. Yeah, she was great. That producer, director of The Puritan, she was great. Yeah, that was a good line. I remember that. B movies with A movie ideas or A ideals or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great line.
Again,
The thing that, and I totally agree, Once Upon a Time in Sleazy Hollywood is a good way to put it.
yeah.
Because, man,
Once
it
upon a
just
time in Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, just add Boulevard to
Yeah.
it. I want to go back to and I told you this when we were pitching shows, when we were pitching the show for Rant, and one of the things that the biggest note that came back multiple times was Hollywood doesn't like stories about Hollywood. And I just want to call bullshit on these freaking studio people who say that. I hate that because I was just talking to RJ earlier, how much I still love Entourage. To this day, if there's a scene from Entourage on Instagram, I watch the whole thing. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We loved freaking The Offer with The Godfather. I think they're wrong. And then this is another one that is just like, I mean, it literally ended on the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Like right at the sign. Like, and how perfect was that?
Yeah.
I mean, to have her end right there and literally see her past on the ground with her and her future right behind her as big as can be.
Yeah.
And she's like, I will not accept it. And just like, you're right. And you put me right where you said you were going to be. That one little line that paid off so well of her dad saying, now say it like you mean it or else it won't come true. And that literally cost him his head.
Yeah.
Because she said it like she meant it, and it came true.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the fake out, that I feel like it flashed above her, before her eyes, that like I can still be a star if this happens, and then they went back to her, and then they did it again. I feel like they could have just did it once. Like she could have told that story on her face.
Yeah.
Rather than to show that.
I think, I agree. I don't know what was going on during the writing process of this movie, but to me, it seems like it's done with such enthusiasm, because I mean, it looks amazing. Like the vibe is
incredible.
Out of sight. The cinematography is amazing. The gore, the soundtrack. I just feel like there was maybe too many ideas going on here. And maybe too many characters, it almost was so excited to just bring in all the tropes, all the classic one-liners, I feel like we didn't get, I would have, she had the video store friend and she had the video store friend's friend with the dog. And then we had Giancarlo as the agent. We had
man,
we had Bobby Cannavale and
Michelle Monaghan.
Michelle Monaghan as the cops. There was just a lot happening here. And I think I would have really, really liked to have seen a very focused movie about the killer, the very loud, leather-gloved killer.
What a great job on that.
Is that the leather, or is that just the strength of the grip?
I don't know. It was a little bit of both, man, but it was a great job because you felt that, man. You actually felt that.
But I would have liked, we had Kevin Bacon in there too. It's like there was too much going on, in my opinion. Now I'm going to watch it again and see if I think different. but I would have really liked to see a movie about the leather-gloved killer coming after Maxine. You know, I feel like that's plenty. I would have liked to see more focus on that. Again, this movie's like, I mean, it's like it's a party, dude. It's pizza rolls and pretzels. It's got all the best stuff in it, you know. But then maybe it's just too much, right? That's just my opinion. But I'm gonna watch it again. But I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm still mixed on it.
That's a fair. It was a lot, dude. They squeezed in a lot, and like I told you, earlier, I had like, this was like me psyched for like the Avengers in 2019. I had like that level of excitement going into MAXXXINE. So I was definitely nervous that, twice the height, double the fall, that it could be like, oh no, that was going to let me down. But it never hit me. But it never hit me. And I don't disagree with some of the notes you're saying, because you can feel that there's really a lot coming from many different directions in that time period. It was almost like an embarrassment of riches, because you're like, why is everybody so good? I can't take my eyes off different things. You can't focus on just one.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like right now, if at the end of that trailer, end of that movie, the post credit was a trailer for Teddy Esquire, Teddy Knight Esquire, that agent / lawyer of hers, Giancarlo Esposito, had his own film. You're like, yeah, I want to know so much more about him. He's like, I'm much more than an agent. And then all of a sudden, he's got Kevin Bacon handcuffed in a car with two, Rottweilers with, that are blood hungry, and they're about to squish him. You're like, he's definitely way more than an agent.
You're 100%. And like, for every scene that was with the video store clerk friend,
he was great too.
I would have rather had Giancarlo have that time so we could learn more about him. You know what I mean? I would have loved to have seen less of the cops. I just I felt you're absolutely right. I was not expecting Kevin Bacon to get popped like a grape like that.
No, that was my second jump scare. We'll talk about that. Luring him into that very Nighthawks type scene, and he got clocked in the head. Man, he sold it like a champ. Yeah. And he fell perfectly. Like, everything was perfect about that I jumped out of my chair when he got hit in the head with that bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, popped very early.
Popped, yeah. I wasn't expecting him to get squished like that. It was as far, it built to that. I wish the dynamic would have been Maxine still doing everything to try and make it in Hollywood. She had the director, who was that's another one. It's like, why does the director need to be in the movie? What does it matter who's directing the movie?
I know.
What does it matter who's directing the movie that Maxine's in? It doesn't matter. It matters that we want to know who's trying to kill her. That's the point. That's why we showed up. Again, it's just
they focused
too character syndrome.
Pushing. Yeah, and they were all good. And the problem was they were all great characters. There was none that were like, I could have done without one. I mean, they were all doing their job. And I see the reason for the director. Like, she was like, obviously Maxine is already a changed person from surviving the Texas porn star massacre. She's already changed, and you see that change in her. That she's very like, I'm not going to help the cops. I'll take care of things myself. So did you really need the director nudging her to like, you better handle this? Because I never thought for 1 second that Maxine wasn't going to not handle this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was always going to be handled. And I think the director was the one that was supposed to be nudging her to push her. Like, remember, this is your shot. Don't mess this up. But, like you said, Teddy Knight already said that. I
think you're right. You're in a situation of you got to have the cop characters or the director character. It's one or the other. We have two. There's just two. I get it. There's a lot of enthusiasm in this movie. You know what I mean? I just feel like needed another round of notes. Maybe that's my vibe after first viewing. I forgot what I was gonna say, but I just think the movie needed to be focused more for me on just her trying to evade this killer. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. I wish they would not have had there was that one scene where Maxine gets an envelope and it's a videotape, and it's footage from the X
From X,
movie. I just wish that would not have been in there. I get why it's in there. It makes sense. I feel like if you've never seen X, it doesn't make any sense. It's never explained. And all it did for me, it just made my mind race. And I was just like, wait a minute. If they have this footage, why is she not a suspect in all the, the murders, all the murders that happened at that house? You know what I mean? Like that opens up a whole other can of worms that just, my mind was just on that. I was like, wait a minute. That just like what, that just opened up a whole other thought process. So I wish that would have been left out because it's never followed up upon again either. No.
And you had the Texas Rangers at the end of X that definitely would have, they found the camera, so you knew they had the camera, and that means what did they do with that? They never went hunting for her. Only her dad went hunting for her. And then, like I said, it's so rich. Like Kralax in the chat says, this could have been a TV series possibly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could see that. I mean, because all of these were almost, there was a lot of it's kind of built out like mini episodes.
There's enough characters in it to make it a TV series. It's just overstuffed with 80s characters.
Yeah, the embarrassment of riches. I mean, this casting, it was spot on. I mean, you had Halsey, Bobby Cannavale, right? And which was great because he's like, I could have been an actor, and he's got his blood. I didn't expect him and Michelle Monaghan to bite it at the end. I did not expect that. But they kind of went out like champs, like to how you kind of expected them to. You had Halsey in there, and she did great. That's what gave me the Avenging Angels feel. I mean, Kevin Bacon, that was your dose of 80s in there, and then Leon, that was his name. Great 80s name for the friend, Moses Sumney, right? He was the one that worked at the video store.
For the video store.
I think a whole series about the video. I want to see who's coming in and out of that video store, because he said, what happened in that scene where he's like, I don't do that anymore. And then he kind of shooed them out, and then that's when he bit it. But who did he shoo out, and why did he shoo them out?
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't. Yeah, obviously, it was the pastor dad, but
the pastor dad went behind him and whacked him, right, with the slice to the back of the neck. But he kicked somebody out. Was it or maybe it was one of the acolytes? Which hats off to the acolytes, dressed like adult altar boys, but they also painted their face like Vikings. And that scene just surrounded a beautiful Hollywood pool while Maxine's tied to a great palm tree with a shot of the Hollywood sign. I was like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I think maybe for me, this movie suffers from trilogy-itis, where it's just trying so hard to be the capper when, Ty West, you had us at X. You don't need to do this for us, I just wish it would have been a little less. I imagine in another dimension, in the alternate universe where it's just more Maxine being terrorized by the gloved killer, and then maybe he's fully naked, like in 10 to Midnight. That would have been dope. Anyway, it's a lot, man. It's a huge movie, and I think this is probably why A24 is pushing it so hard. It's a big. I'm curious to see what the layperson, what the civilians are going to say to this.
Well, I brought RJ with me, who's never seen X or Pearl, and this kind of is not necessarily always his genre, and he kind of dug it, and I saw him trying to piece together the stuff that we already kind of know because we saw the two films. He's like, oh, maybe the dad's, he was trying to piece it together, so I was thinking, okay. So I had that same thought. I was like, maybe there's somebody who could walk in here kind of cold and still enjoy the movie, but then have to go back. And now I want to go back and see how it feels, just to see how it feels, because you said it in your machete cut. That's, please like, subscribe, and share if you made it this far, and check out Mario's Machete Cuts playlist. The latest ones, you're paid off dividends when you watch X, then Pearl, then X again. and then Maxine. Like now we got to go back and see X again and see if we have that same feeling, because to me, Maxine felt so much bigger in this one. Like she's felt like the star that she didn't know she was already. Where in X, she felt like she wanted to be a star. This one, she wanted to be a star, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. So she felt like already a star. But I mean, that could just be, now is that Mia Goth or Maxine Minx that are making me feel that?
I mean, it is a great character. It is a great character, you know? She definitely, I mean, yeah, I think that, you know, the way she was built up in X to be sort of like a victim of that whole thing and then getting over it, and it kind of ends, her arc is like her determination to remain alive and still follow her dream, right?
Yeah.
And this is a good follow-up to that. I think there's something about the fact, like, I feel like maybe, and again, I'm just giving notes. I don't know. I don't direct movies, but just like, maybe could we have found out a little sooner that it was her dad? You know, did it have to be a huge twist? I feel like that adds stakes when it's just like, oh, maybe not in the finale, but maybe a little before the finale, she figures out that it's her dad. Again, you know what I mean? Like, again, we had the Kevin Bacon character, and maybe we didn't need him at all, you know? I feel like he was a mouthpiece for the dad, but just take us there. Just get us there, you know?
But you know, I think everybody, especially the Gen Xers, knowing Kevin Bacon, that really was like a shot of 80s adrenaline, that knowing that was Kevin Bacon playing a character made it feel even more 80s. You know, by proxy somehow. I think maybe that's why
he epitomizes the 80s. He epitomizes
right?
the 80s. The 80s. Sure, yeah. But again, just a lot going on in this movie that I feel gave it a little lack of focus.
And I see that again. It's so much. So yeah, I'm very curious how you're going to feel in the second one, because now you will be unburdened with anticipation.
Yeah.
You won't have that, and now looking at it again, and I think your notes are still going to be there. Like, I don't think it's going to wipe them all out, because again, it was a mouthful.
Yeah.
For a movie that, again, this felt so much bigger, and the other two were great. Like, I love these films. I mean, we talked about how X gets better with any screening, but this one felt huge on the 4th of July weekend, that it's going against Minions, where normally you get like a Spider-Man movie or a Marvel or another Superman will drop on here. You don't get Maxine as a 4th of July movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, counter programming, right?
I love it, but it was so big.
You know, and that's funny. You bring up X again, and I remember we just saw it at the theater like 2 weeks ago, right? And I remember what a great experience it was watching that. It just felt so on. Everything worked so well in that movie. I didn't feel that for this movie. I didn't feel that same kind of excitement, you know, where it's just like it built the same way.
Here, let me be devil's advocate with that, and let me see if this strikes a chord with you on comparing all three. Could it be because X was contained to the farm versus Maxine, which was Hollywood, which can't be contained, and it was just like everywhere? I mean, and then it's like walking into seeing 2 or 3 things in a room versus walking in and seeing 50 things in a room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily that. It was just the way that X builds and then pays off is what works really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've kind of it's got the structure of it, and the writing and the pacing just works really well, that by the time you get to the murders, it's like you're just... It does exactly what Texas Chainsaw Massacre did, which is that it's kind of slow and meandering at the beginning, right? Same thing, and there's kind of some annoying parts at the beginning, it gives you that same feel as like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the brother in the wheelchair, you have no sympathy for the kid, and you feel bad that you don't, but he's so annoying. It felt like that. Even though, I mean, they're charismatic and they're great, but it's different. It's just, it felt like it was just another vibe. But once the Texas Chainsaw Massacre begins, it does not stop until it cuts to black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
And that's what X felt. Once Pearl starts killing, it's just go, go, go until Maxine drives off, Yeah. And I just felt that was perfectly encapsulated. I felt like this one was, because I mean, it's like, it's coming from, it's in the third movie in a trilogy of slasher movies, and it is incorporating a real life 80s slasher story, right?
Right.
And it builds, it's just like, I missed the confrontation with the slasher, It's like, I get that it was the dad and that was a swerve, and I'm fine with that. But I think, had we been introduced sooner to know that, I feel like that would have even built it more, right? That there's going to be a big payoff. Maxine is going to have to face off against her dad. I mean, what kid is not into that? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know where this got mixed up. Again, I don't direct films, but maybe I'm just, I don't know. I'm missing.
Well, you do direct films, and I mean, again, I think that's valid because, well, clearly, it caused me some confusion because it didn't tell me. I didn't figure it out until you just told me that, like, oh yeah, that was kind of like a parallel, false narrative that was going on. That the Night Stalker was just happening at the same time this was happening. That Maxine's dad was not the Night Stalker. And the whole time I thought, okay, whoever the Night Stalker is going after Maxine. But it was just like two completely different narratives, and that's why, like, we caught the Night Stalker. Turns out to be the actual Night Stalker, and then there's this thing that happened with her dad. So were there any scenes with the leather glove clad that we assumed, which was her evangelist dad, that were actually the Night Stalker? Or was it all her dad that we saw?
No, I think that was all her dad. Because, I mean, he's got the gloves at the end.
So, and he was knocking off all her friends and all her links that could have been the things that were persuading her, right? So you had... well,
Stephen King, FYI, update in real time. Stephen King just said Maxine is terrific. Now, I don't disagree. I'm going to see it again. And I paid the $20 for the swag. And you know what I mean? And I'm sure that I will watch it more times whenever it drops or whatever. It's just, I'm conflicted. And I don't know how much of it is my expectations and how much of it is script notes.
I love coming right out of a theater and having these types of reactions. But I also know exactly what you're feeling and having that, like, oh man, I got to see that again.
I mean, it makes you feel weird when it's just like, I don't know how, I'm still mixed on that movie, but Stephen King loves it, so what's wrong with me?
I was trying to look up that X post, that tweet. But yeah, I mean, I had it recently. Like, remember we talked about that with John Wick 4, which now I realize was somewhat of the same itis that I had. That I'm like, there's just so much to look at. There's so much happening. That it's just like, I worry, it's just like, I hope my brain's not slowing down, because how come I couldn't keep up with this? And then you watch it the second time and you're like, oh, okay, I'm fine. It's just, I think we just get that same feeling that if we were in a Six Flags parking lot and we get blowed up before we even make it to the gate because we're running for the gate because we're too excited.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening.
I agree. And then, shout out to AMC theaters. You're fine. We don't mind you. But damn, why so many trailers? Jeez.
Yeah. Well, have you ever timed? Like, I've timed Cinemark and I've clocked it at 28 minutes. What's yours?
No, AMC's about 27, 28 minutes. And I'm
Wow.
just like, wow. And I just saw, and before that, I saw 15 minutes of Maria Menounos trivia, and
Oh yeah, newbie.
I'm just like, wow, wow. Is this really necessary? Can't you just shoot it to my phone and make me watch it later? Do I have to watch it now?
Dude, there was an episode of The Simpsons that predicted this, and it was an old episode too. It talked about the surround sound, and it showed all the stuff before the movies and the M&M commercials that are there. I feel it, man. And that Alamo props, right? You get 10 minutes. 10 to 12 minutes is the most you got it. But I was happy in this one because it was all A24 trailers, right?
Sure.
We got Long Legs.
Sure.
You know, we got the AI Afraid movies
I
with John
think that
Chow.
A24 has taken Blumhouse's spot
Yeah,
as the
100%
leading
agree.
horror distributor, because I feel Blumhouse is sort of, they've kind of fallen off into Schlocksville.
Yeah, because they're buying, you know, they're buying brands. Meanwhile, you got freaking Hugh Grant in a movie called Heretic, and two girls show up at the door, and he's got him trapped, and he's making. And I was like, oh man, that looks dope. A24, what are you doing to me? Like, I want, like, if right, you know, if they were right on the spot, you're like, do you like all three of these A24 movies? Scan the QR code and buy your tickets immediately. I would probably do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, that was really good. But that being said, back to MAXXXINE, one thing that I guess you got to kind of give it to them. This was the end. Like, it didn't feel like, ironically, the last line was, I don't ever want it to end. And then, you know, that Betty Davis eyes with her fake severed head and the eyes rolling up was a great choice. But I just sat there and I'm like, I don't want this to end either. But then I realized when it was over, it's over. And I feel like MAXXXINE's story is over. Do you agree?
I mean, that's the word. I know Ty West has already said maybe 4, maybe a spinoff, maybe more in MAXXXINE world.
Well, I pray it's Teddy Knight Esquire. I mean, for our sake, I want to see how he navigates Hollywood in the '90s. I'd love to see that.
I think,
But
yeah, I would say
MAXXXINE the character though. Like, what else? I mean, I guess you can have her fall if you want, but like, this was a nice little bow. This was a nice little bow, and don't get me wrong, I'd go see 4, but I'm not going to be disappointed if that was a nice little encapsulation.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think we'll see MAXXXINE again. Maybe a spin-off in the MAXXXINE world, but and you know, it's good. You gotta let these things end.
Yeah.
You gotta let these things end, and you gotta let these trilogize.
Right. But I don't think we need to see the end of the MAXXXINE universe, because as we found out in this, there was a lot going on. I mean, do we want to see a young Bobby Cannavale? Like, how did he become an actor who turned into a cop?
No.
You know, that's another character. Would you see that?
No.
No. Say you don't want to see him in the 70s doing porn.
Nope. No, I don't want that at all.
I know, and that's hard for me to say, man, because I'm a huge mark for Mia Goth. I mean, she was just so big in this movie.
Well, I want. I think if I'm Mia Goth and her agent, I don't know what they're working on, but she's done a lot of horror over the last few years, and now I think she's allegedly in the new Blade, if that ever happens.
Oh yeah, that's supposed to start shooting in November. There was rumors of her being the Bride of Frankenstein too.
I want to see Mia Goth in like Paddington 3, where she can just let that high-pitched English accent voice just rip.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. Mia Goth in Paddington 3. She could be the heel, if that helps.
Wait, didn't they just drop a trailer for Paddington 3?
Oh, okay, maybe 4.
Yeah, Paddington 3 drops next year.
Mike says Mia Goth as Stu's daughter in Scream 7. Yeah. As long as she's British. I want to hear that. I want that British accent on camera. Because she's got such a British nanny voice. She could be Mary Poppins.
Oh my God, you're right. Now she would have been a great Mary Poppins too.
Yeah,
Oh, you're right. I mean, the lead of Paddington in Peru was Emily Mortimer. That totally could have been Mia Goth.
yeah. Can you imagine like her like doing songs about cleaning your room and stuff like that? Mia Goth. Me, I'd like to see her in that. I don't want her to get pigeonholed as just a scream queen. I'm really a big fan of hers. I think she's great. Mia Goth for Paddington 4.
Let me.
Game of Thrones spinoff. Mike says. I mean, feel like that's on the nose. I just want to see her. I want to see her take some chances, take some risks.
I hope I can. I hope I didn't interrupt a potential short here, and put it in there because I think you pitching Mia Goth either in Paddington or Mary Poppins are both pretty spot on.
Mia Goth as Mary Poppins. Can you imagine Mia Goth singing Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and doing that pearl dance?
Oh man, no, and no. I mean, Emily Blunt did a great. She did a great job, but I just want to be taken out of that moment, and you're like, whoa, that's Mia Goth from MAXXXINE, who's now Mary Poppins. Because for that one moment, you're going to be waiting for her to flip.
Why won't you clean your room?
Exactly. That would be so good. Oh man, and another if we were to cross universe, this is another movie talking about crossing universes that I would love to hear Quentin Tarantino's take on, like this trilogy. I would love to hear it. I miss Video Archives. I know probably wouldn't cover. He doesn't like to cover new movies, right? He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to insult anybody.
He won't do it, and that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be a bully if he doesn't like it, even though he's entitled to his opinion on anything. And I'm sure he has opinion. He definitely has an opinion on everything.
I just feel like he would love this, though, right? Even with this notes, I feel like this was made.
I would like to see, like, again, Stephen King loved it outright. You know what I mean? And the fact that I feel mixed on it makes me question my own thought process.
Oh, dude, it was I
mean, it's better. It's better than the last Marvel one, whatever. What's the last one? The Fantastics or whatever.
Oh, the Marvels.
It's better than the Marvels. MAXXXINE is better than the Marvels.
Well, you never said you disliked it. You just said you had mixed feelings because you had, we talked about this with Iron Claw, right? We loved Iron Claw. You loved it with notes. I feel like you're leaning more towards I liked it with notes more than I disliked it and hear my notes.
I definitely liked it. I'm gonna see it again. Like I literally couldn't wait to see it so much that I went to the weird unannounced A24 screening in the tiniest theater at the mall. And I'm gonna see it Saturday, and I paid extra to get the swag. So I'm still in it. I was, like you said, I was blowed up before I got to my seat.
And those are happiness problems.
Yeah, it's happiness problems. It's
good.
I get it. And I would the thing is like, I would tell everybody who's watching or anybody sees it or anybody who asks, definitely, I do recommend watch. Make your own opinion. Stephen King likes it. Maybe you don't, but I mean, that's whatever, But what this is definitely interesting cinema worth discussing. Yeah.
And that's again what it made you feel something, and that means something.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's a hot take we can talk about a little bit because I was trying to figure out what's next for Ty West. But I kind of have to let what came Ty West before, because I'm looking at his filmography and I don't think I ever watched a Ty West movie until X.
Really?
I did not see Cabin Fever 2, Spring Fever. Did not see House of the Devil, Innkeepers, The Sacrament, in the Valley of Violence, Trigger Man, The Roost. I didn't see any of these.
Okay, so I've been following Ty West for a long time. He was sort of an indie director for a long time, and I have in my past I have more connections with like film festival people, but like Triggerman, I remember Triggerman. I love Triggerman. I thought that was great. Super lo-fi 16 millimeter kind of movie shot in the woods, and the premise is like, imagine you're going for a walk in the woods and someone starts shooting at you, and all you can do is duck and cover. Really
That's
good,
pretty cool.
really good indie idea and well executed. Let's see, what else do we got? I'm pulling up his filmography as well. Credits, director, come on. He's done a lot of TV. That's how he pays the bills. I didn't see The Roost. House of the Devil. I did see House of the Devil.
That's the one I heard of.
Yes.
Ironically, like I said, I didn't see it, but that was the one I heard of.
I think House of the Devil and MAXXXINE is a good double feature.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's another sort of 80s movie that pulls from genres. I don't know what genre. I don't know how to describe it. But like, if you watch the first 20 minutes of the movie, you get it. And you're like, oh, I know what this is pulling from. Woman hired to babysit for the night, and spoilers, it's an old movie, but it turns into a satanic ritual thing. So that's definitely worth checking out. It's got future Barbie director Greta Gerwig is in it. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. Let's see. I didn't see The Innkeepers. It just didn't interest me. Sacrament. I did see The Sacrament. That's an awesome. He did a found footage type of thing.
Oh, interesting.
And he was in the first VHS. So he did.
Oh, Eli Roth presents The Sacrament. So they're buddies, because he definitely directed Cabin Fever 2, so he got past that mantle.
Yeah, well, Cabin Fever 2 is its own thing. If you look into the history of Cabin Fever 2, it's one of those Frankenstein films that got taken away from him, essentially. He didn't get to be involved with the edit.
Oh, that sucks, because he edits all his stuff. Well, yeah. He edited this entire trilogy, so.
So anyway, he's done In the Valley of Violence is the one I haven't seen, which I really want to see, which is his Western. It's got John Travolta and Ethan Hawke.
What? Wow. And he has his Blumhouse ties, right? Because Blumhouse was a producer on that.
I think if you're doing your Ty West catch up, House of the Devil, definitely watch. Sacrament, definitely watch. And then that gets us to the X trilogy, but he's been a journeyman director for a little bit, directing TV. That's great.
I just don't think. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I think now he just created an IP, right? Everybody's getting handed these IPs and trying to resurrect these IPs, but he just created his own. Like, he just created his own universe that everything Legoed together perfectly. So he's gonna get offers. He's gonna get stuff thrown his way. But now the question is, what does he do next? Does he take one of those, or does he just come up with just something beautiful like this again?
I don't know. Like, what is there? What are the options, really? Take an established IP, like we've talked about. Ty West takes on Friday the 13th. Well, okay. Even though I think he'd be a good choice. Is that even a good choice for a director trying to get over anymore? Who directed? Let me ask you something. Who directed Spider-Man? The Spider-Man Tom Holland trilogy.
Webb. I only remember because his last name was Webb.
No, I'm talking about the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy.
Oh, wasn't? Oh, that wasn't him. I don't know. I thought it was his last name. I thought it was something Webb.
You're thinking of Mark Webb.
Yeah.
He directed the Amazing Spider-Man
Oh,
duology.
he did the Garfield
right.
ones.
What I'm telling you is, who directed the Spider-Man Tom Holland trilogy that made like $5 billion?
You're right. Yeah, I have no idea.
So if I'm Ty West, do I want to be that guy? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure the money's good, but
The money's good, but you're right. You can't just take any franchise. I kind of like it, for being a Jets fan. This is the only comparison I have to this. The QB or head coach that finally brings a title back to New York after 50 something years is going to be legendary. Whoever. So if there is an IP where a code needs to be cracked that hasn't been cracked, it could be something big, but also it could be a black eye. Like, look what happened to what's his name that directed the Halloween series, and the first one was really good, really well received. The second one, third one, the Corey Cunningham story, people are fired up, and then The Exorcist, like, get that away from that guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He kind of took a shot for it. Like, so you're right. Is it worth the risk of being either unknown or taking a black eye versus bringing glory to, cracking the code on an IP, which most of these IPs are already successful on their own?
Yeah.
You might be right. It might not be worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It just depends. Maybe he needs to pay off his mortgage, so it might be worth doing a job for him. But I mean, I think what's important is that I feel like he's established himself as a auteur now, as a voice. So I feel like he could be marketable. I don't know how MAXXXINE's going to do at the box office. I didn't realize Minions were out this weekend as well. And so
yes.
I don't know what you do against the Minions.
Well, I don't want to say the trending soft is not the right word, but I don't think it was tracking high to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, this was something that, like, I don't even know. I'd be curious what the budget is. But, I mean, it's going to be something that's going to not blow away any expectations by any stretch, but I don't think there's going to be any danger of losing money, because it's still, even with everything in this movie, I'd love to see what the budget was. But ever since Amazon took over Box Office Mojo, you don't get to see the budget anymore. They pulled the curtain back.
Yeah. Well, apparently, X and MAXXXINE were both under... No, not MAXXXINE. X and Pearl were both under $2 million, budget-wise.
Really? Do you think that they got over $5 million? Even, think about they had to...
I mean,
this
they were on the Universal Studios tour there for a little bit and went to the Psycho House. I feel like this had to be more budgeted. I don't know. They were pushing it pretty hard. It had a lot of promotion behind it. So I can't find it anymore.
I don't feel like it's going to lose any money. But yeah, let's talk. I forgot. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, what were your feelings on tying it together to Psycho like that and having her as the Alfred Hitchcock blonde?
Again, that just falls into the bucket of just too many ideas going on here. I feel like going to the Bates Motel thing and being on the studio lot adds that weird authenticity, making pulling it into real life, but just too much going on in this movie. It just went all out. It pulled all the stops. It was doing the Pearl dance for us, and did everything. And again, I still have to see it again before I can make an accurate call.
Fair. No, I
had no heat with it, mind you. I did like the Psycho thing. It was cool. It's fine. But, just a lot of ideas going on.
It was just, yeah, you're right. It was just another, man, You ever go to Golden Corral and you're like, I want the spaghetti, but I want the roast beef, but I want the and you just load the plate up.
Right, and you put a pizza slice on top.
Yeah, and it's all great food.
Yeah,
it's all great food, but man, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on in this, and yeah, I don't know. I just because it starts off with you see our gloved guy, and our gloved guy is coming for MAXXXINE. I just feel once you know that's got to be the focus of the movie. I mean, MAXXXINE goes on the Universal Studios tour is a whole other. That's like a webisode we put out later.
Oh man, I gotta give him his props though. Simon Praps as her dad, the televangelist Ernest Miller. It was Ernest, which is a great televangelist name. He was pretty terrifying. Like when you kind of have the dynamic of the family and they might change their mind even though they know what they got to do, but they might change their mind because there's still a little bit of like possibly like you're my brother Anakin, or just like daddy please, or mommy, get her mommy, like you expected something and it never happened. This Ernest the Evangelist was so single focused and terrifying. To me, there was never any doubt that they were adversaries from the moment they locked eyes again. And there's clearly a reason that MAXXXINE ran away that was never really brought to light. But it seems like now that you know what her dad's willing to do, because he was like, I'm trying to save everybody from the devil, but I'm going to turn it into this really cool film.
Yeah, and I feel like that was only barely touched upon. That was only, and that is interesting because it's like that's a very interesting idea, and that's good you highlight that because so if we introduce the dad sooner, we learn that he also had these Hollywood dreams. You know what I mean? He had these aspirations to make a film or be a director or whatever it is, and it's just like it makes sense that his daughter is MAXXXINE, determined to be an actress, determined to be a star. So that's great. That's great. They just didn't give our killer enough time.
No. And and it was a great setup, and that house was terrifying. Like everything about it was terrifying. I don't know how on a evangelist salary that he was able to hire the best, private dick in town, and then he got this nice house in the Hollywood Hills right underneath the Hollywood sign that had a gondola that you actually had to ride up to the front door.
Yeah. And
it was clearly a beautiful house and a beautiful pool. Like, how did he get this money? Like, there's a lot of questions about Ernest the Evangelist that could be its own spinoff too.
Right.
And he was never any danger of a babyface turn.
Yeah.
Ever. And, he was the evangelist, but he was the heel the entire way through. And you knew once MAXXXINE locked eyes with him, she showed more, heart and concern when she realized Leon was dead than she did when she saw her dad. It was more like, okay, that's it. Me and you, let's go. Gloves are off.
And you know what? That's also very interesting. That's a question. Like, just like I was questioning the fact that he had the footage from X, where does he get his money? Solid question. That's a great plot point that could have been explored, And just to me, in my experience, if you've growing up in Texas, okay, they got a lot of churches here, and being in production, I've worked those evangelist shows. When I was up in Dallas, I've worked evangelist shows, okay, and I'm for a shoot, I saw trunks of bills just getting wheeled out of there. Trunks of cash getting wheeled. Wow. And this is like a big evangelist show. They rent out the convention center type of thing, Yeah. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money changing hands at those things.
Yeah. So I would have loved to see how he did that and how he got that money. But maybe he did, like you said, he got it from his followers, and maybe because he just has this cool, before its time, right? Before televangelist, right? He was just an evangelist, but maybe he saw the writing on the wall, just like, what's his name in X is just like this home video market's gonna blow up for adult films, and maybe the evangelist like this home video market's gonna blow up for us too. And that's why I was a director. Like he was talking to the camera, and I was waiting for him to say something like "cut" or "I can do this better" or "let me get a better angle." I thought he was gonna get into like full on director mode.
Yeah, filmmaker mode. Yeah, totally.
Man!
Again, so many ideas happening in this movie. Certain things left unexplored. Yeah, I don't know. And
it made the universe feel a lot bigger. Like you said, there's more, and you want more, and more was untouched. Totally agree with that, because it just made it feel so vast.
Yeah.
And one thing that got me, I mean, I guess the whole, you talked about this earlier with the Giallo feel. We got to cover it again. These unalivings in this film were pretty intense. I mean, we talked about, the sausage, the Franks and the beans getting smashed on the pavement, while the guy was still alive. You had that. The Kevin Bacon getting Negan'd off the stage and then squished in the car like it was Pulp Fiction. But I forgot about the other one, man. And that was the first, and it was at the end, and it was the first real jump scare, was the one of the adult altar boys that you thought was done came jumping out of the pool like Jason Voorhees and pulled her in.
Yeah. Did
you jump on that?
No, not really.
I jumped, and then you knew she was going to do something vicious, and that was another vicious, man. A switchblade through the nose? Like straight up the nose? Like that was another one that you're kind of like, oh, wow. So Ty West really he set the bar high for himself, that almost like maybe Ty West needs to give us a comedy with just a straight up, because there was definitely stuff that you kind of would laugh at, but it's the Pulp Fiction laughing that happens, that you're like, I don't know if I should be laughing at like that, like the security guard saying, "Oh, Maxine Mink, I'm a big fan of your work," and the audience popped for that in the theater. Like maybe Ty West needs to just make a comedy.
I mean, if you go back through Ty West's filmography and rewatch stuff, you will see that he is excellent at timing stabs and gunshots. Really good at timing those out. But anyway.
No, I can totally see that, because they did flash back to that scene in X that made me jump out of my skin the first time I saw it, was the Jenna Ortega, shotgun scene.
Yeah.
When that happened, man, I jumped like out of my skin. And I gotta admit, like as time moves on, I definitely have a lot more jump scares. I told you in Civil War, I had probably a dozen jump scares.
You're kind of a mark for jump scares.
I do jump, and it gets me.
When we saw X not too long ago, I was like, wow, all the jump scares were getting you.
I was falling for them, and I feel like that was the only one in this movie, though, right? Like there was wind scares.
Well, again, it's not a horror movie.
No, it's a giallo slasher.
It's a giallo, not a giallo, but an American knockoff of a giallo. Somewhere there's another version of MAXXXINE that happened in Italy, and it was directed by Dario Argento. And this is the American remake.
Oh man, I can totally see that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, black gloves and red splashes are go hand in hand with giallo now, so I totally feel that. But let's on our go home spot. I know we're getting ready to wrap up here. What would be your final first screening review, with an asterisk that we can do our show next week, and you'd be like, oh, by the way, I thought of this. But what would be your first screening log line about MAXXXINE?
Review?
Yeah.
I would say like overstuffed with ideas, but still enjoyable.
Okay, good. I like what you called it earlier. It would be Once Upon a Time in Sleazy Hollywood Boulevard.
Once Upon a Time on Hollywood Boulevard. Yep.
Yeah. That's a great. That's a great. He's got the Texas Porn Star Massacre and Once Upon a Time on Hollywood Boulevard.
I want to see the Texas Porn Star Massacre so bad.
But yeah, 80s. I mean, it was a great nostalgia trip, but also a great payoff to me a beautiful trilogy of three completely different tastes that taste great together. Like something in the Bear where you'd be like, that's not really going to pair very well. Yes, it will. A dot of this, something completely different, put it together, and now you got this XXX trilogy, and yeah, great stuff.
I wonder if there's a director's cut of this. Or if this is, I guess, well, if he does his own editing, I guess that is the director's cut. But I mean, yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Again, fantastic trilogy of films as a whole. It's one of the best trilogies out there. You know, it's hard to do that. This one suffers from trilogy-itis or trilogy part 3-itis. You know, it's hard to stick that landing, but overstuffed with so many. Again. Imagine going to a party and they got pizza rolls, French toast sticks, all the good stuff, pretzels and cheese, and you're just like, it's just like almost too much.
And cake.
Right next to you. And tamales as well.
All right, that's our go home, man. But as we're wrapping up, I can't hear the music, so maybe we're already wrapping up, but you are all in on physical media right now, and I love to do it, and I haven't fully embraced it like you have. Not that I'm against it, but when that time comes and you get that box set of these three, I'm buying it. I don't care if it's $150.
My man, if you have not done it, I know you haven't, and I know it's tough and the economy is tough, but I recommend getting you one of them 4K players. I just think there's nothing in our times of turbulent political chaos and economical chaos, and I don't know, we just had viruses a few years ago. Just nothing better than putting in a disc and just not watching a movie completely uninterrupted.
Yeah, that's bringing back that. We love the theatrical experience. The home theatrical experience keeps us safe.
And one thing and again, I'll just say this: another thing I found, a thing that we're losing and we've got to save or we've got to remember is the beauty of DVD special features. You go out there, get you some DVDs for whatever, $4 for $1 now. And just loaded with special features, behind the scenes stuff. They don't do anymore. Featurettes and deleted scenes, and anyway, physical media, buddy.
I'm all for it. Didn't get when I got a DVD to replace my VHS. I made the monster mistake of getting rid of that VHS tape to replace it. As I get movies on digital, those DVDs are still parked in my closet where they belong.
Remind me to loan you Full Tilt Boogie. You're gonna love it.
Yes, I need to do that. I need to rerun a nice 8K new cable and get that 4K player. That's what I need.
Recommended.
Cool.
All right, well, have a happy 4th.
Yes, happy 4th. Keep all the digits. That's the most important thing. Mind the digits.
Come back with fingers. All right, see you later.
Yes, see you next week. Later.